So now we're going to move on to other media. So I'm going to let you start that one since I have more to talk about.
Okay. So in terms of other media, in terms of games, there's really nothing new for me. I mean, I popped in Brawl like once or twice in the past week just to mess around a little bit.
Because you know that winter is coming.
Well, okay, you ruined it. Uh,
Oh,
so
come on. I know. Yes. For those of you who don't get why I said it for this particular part, that's because next next Friday is when the Super Smash Bros. 3DS comes out. And yes, Strider doesn't have a 3DS yet, but he knows eventually he's going to, hopefully sooner than later, he's going to get one and be able to start playing as his favorite character, Ike, in Super Smash Bros. For
so
3DS.
yeah, games. That's it. Like honestly, I play I still play a lot of Street Fighter. Still play the same shit over and over. At this point, in terms of anime, I haven't really done anything new because I finished off Kill la Kill in the past week. I thought it was really good. Like not as good as Gurren Lagann, but I thought it was really really good. I would put it on my C tier for anime, but definitely on the upper echelon of that C tier, and that's going from A, B, C, D, and F, like school grade.
Mm-hmm. Now, approximately how many do you set a limit on how many anime you put in A, B, and C, or is it just okay, this gets an A and this gets a B and
Yeah,
this gets a
it
C?
it all
Doesn't matter
depends
how
on like
many.
proximity. So like for A, I have like DBZ, Inuyasha, well Dragon Ball, like the franchise Dragon Ball, because the whole thing's the manga. Like Inuyasha, Full Metal. I have like One
One
Piece,
Piece, I know.
Shaman King. I have Gundam Wing, G Gundam, and I,
Now, see, that's the one thing that pissed me off because when I was watching Gurren Lagann a couple weeks back on Netflix, my brother was complaining. My little brother was like, "Why are you watching this? This is a Gundam ripoff." And I'm like,
it's not.
"Shut your mouth, you little fucking bitch! Just because it has people driving, utilizing, fighting inside robots, does not mean it's
No,
Gundam. Gurren Lagann is not Gundam. Now, I never watched Gundam, and I don't think I will. But Gundam can suck my ass,
yeah,
my
well,
dick.
G Gundam and Gundam Wing rank higher than Gurren Lagann on my list. So
Well, yeah, but I mean, and I respect that because everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But
yeah,
anyway,
but
continue.
anyway, besides that, that's a little off track. So that's for
Mm-hmm.
like honestly anime. I didn't really watch any movies, but I've started an American cartoon. Ooh, that
Blasphemy!
would be the Legend of Wishy Washy Korra. And so I'm not going to talk about anything about book two, even though I've seen a couple episodes of book two so far. I'm going to talk about book one, kind of briefly, go over it. If you want to see all my thoughts on each particular episode, I'll have a link to the thread in the description. You'll see my post somewhere along the lines. So, in book one, we start off with their main. We have our main character. We get set, and it seemed to me like Korra began as like a sort of like an appeal to like these edgy teenagers that are angsty, rebel against their parents
Mm-hmm.
and shit like that. Like, look at me, I'm edgy as fuck. You all love me, teenagers. And that
Mm-hmm. Yep, we all
seemed to
know
be
those.
her only gimmick,
We all know those. Mm-hmm.
And then
That and she
yeah,
couldn't
she couldn't
airbend for
airbend.
shit.
She didn't want to get into her spiritual side. Fuck religion. That whole that's her. That's her.
You know, you don't want to offend any
That's
people
her
out there.
mentality, though. I'm not saying that for myself.
I
And
know.
but then she starts to grow as a character, which is nice. Like, but she has like these weird like bumps, like TV drama bumps, where like, I like you, Mako. Oh, fuck you, Mako. Oh, I like you, Bowen. Oh, fuck you, Bowen. It's
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's one of the many issues that people have with the series because it's not just in book one, but in other books. The other books they incorporate a lot more drama than they
hmm
should, like not like pointless drama, not relevant
yeah, I'll say.
drama.
But I won't go into book two because book two is chock full of drama in just the first three episodes that I've seen. But not.
And next week you'll get to hear his summary of his review for that, and that should be totally interesting. And since I've already seen it, I know how he thinks. I
I'm probably
know it's
gonna
going to
go
be
ham on
interesting.
if it stays similar. But anyway, in terms of villain,
Anyway,
I liked Amon. I thought he was cool. I enjoyed him.
Amon, um, mm, well, Amon is was they hit the mark when they picked when they for Amon in terms of a villain. But to briefly mention your thoughts about what you said in your review of the book as a whole, I agree with the fact that because the thing that people have to understand when they go into Legend of Korra is that one of the things that makes it very much different from Aang, Legend of Aang, your internet listening to this overseas, it's referred to as well, Last Airbender was referred to as the Legend of Aang, was that in Legend of Aang there was one main villain of the entire series. There was other smaller villains, but it was all leading up to the main villain that you knew who the main villain was from day one. Whereas this one, each book they wrote each book to have a different main villain. Now, supposedly the fourth book that's coming out in like 2 weeks is going to have a villain that's going to wrap everything up together. So we don't know if there was any, which then will reveal to us if there was any hints at the greater
Right.
villain, but we don't know that yet. But other than that, the fact that each book has its own individual main villain, they pretty much set their own limitations and basically forced it to not be to be forced the villain storylines to be rushed.
Right. Though I think in
And
the 12 episodes in the first book, I think they could have done better. I mean, yeah, it was kind of forced to be rushed, but at the same time, like I've said about other things, they could have allocated that time better.
well, yes, like you also said, Amon was in the shadows more so than he most of the time, and it focused on a lot of the
hmm
other people, everyone, pretty much everyone else
Yeah,
besides Amon.
basically.
You know, even
Yeah,
though he
he
was the
was the
main
main
villain.
villain, and then
But
the final battle between the Avatar and the villain just kind of happened. It was like, oh, charging. Oh, we found out his identity. Let's go kick his ass. Oh, hello, Amon. You captured Tenzin. How the fuck did you do that? Oh shit. Okay, fight. Round one, fight. You know.
well, if you want to count their, well, that's besides the point. It happened quick. The final fight came upon us quickly, and then the fight didn't really last
Well,
that long.
I was correct when I was watching through the books. It seemed to me it was like very evident that like airbending was the secret to beating the not the extremists, the equalists, and it seemed kind of obvious when you saw how Tenzin dealt with them individually, and then even the kids were able to take out the individual like people that would normally like beat the crap out of firebenders, waterbenders, earthbenders, and so it was kind of obvious to me, and then it was like, okay, Korra just beat Amon with airbending. It was like I couldn't have hit the mark like better just with that prediction.
Well, that was Yeah, but you have to also remember that was like it suddenly came upon her and threw him off guard because he didn't. First of all, he thought he sealed all her bending. Now he knew she hadn't used air bending in any other fight because she couldn't have. So Amon either thought she didn't know how to do it, or it didn't matter to him at that point because he
Right.
took her bending away. So he didn't think that even if she could discover air bending at this point, he thought that it would still be sealed away because he took her bending away. But it threw him off guard and it allowed for a quick, takedown of him. Now, he wasn't necessarily defeated. It was just that it became known that he was lying, and that made him, as a villain, there was no reason for him to continue fighting for his cause because he was
Right.
found
But
out.
still, like, she had her first strike, and then
But
Amon started bloodbending her.
but now, but you let me didn't let but I do agree with the fact that she probably still would have been able to beat him, even if he didn't get found out, and the
Yeah.
fight would have continued. It's just because if you see the way he moved in order to defeat the other three element benders, he moved a lot like an airbender. Moving with the wind type of
Yeah.
shit they were talking about earlier. All right. So, any other thoughts or on that or any other
Yeah.
shows you've
Yeah.
seen
Well, it
in the
doesn't.
past week?
It doesn't work on an airbender that way. But yeah. So Korra overall as book one, I thought was good. Even though it had obvious glaring issues to iron out, I thought it was good. And that's pretty much it for my media for that week. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, as usual, Mr. Talkative has the large chunk of the other media section to talk about. Now, I think I'm going to start with the gaming. Now, I'm going to briefly talk first. Well, there were two video games I played in the last week. One was the game was Naruto Storm Revolution or Ninja Storm Revolution, which I kind of thought it was funny that the chapter that was released previously to this release of this game was entitled Revolution. So and then the other game I played was the Super Smash Bros. 3DS demo. Now, I'm going to talk about that one first because there's not much to talk about. You basically get 5 characters and 1 stage. You get Mega Man, Villager, Pikachu, Link, and Mario, and then you can play on Battlefield. Normal Battlefield with items in a 2-minute match, or the Final Destination form, or as they call it, the Omega form, in a 2-minute match with no items. No items. And the only other thing you can do is you can play by yourself with computers, or you can connect with somebody else who has is in the vicinity, meaning local wireless, and who also has a demo, and you can play against them. So it was decent, and I like playing. It's fun, but I'm not like crazy about playing it because because of the fact that it's so limited. So, but it's still good, and I can't wait for the full version to come out next Friday. Now, Naruto Ninja Storm Revolution. Now, I loved the Storm 3, so when I heard about Revolution, I knew I had to pick it up. And it's a great game. It was easy to pick up because it's basically the same controls. It's the same controls, so it was easy to pick up in the game. If since I played Storm 3, and now the free battle mode is free battle mode, and online battles are online battles. The other 2 modes is the main focus of what I'm going to talk about. Ninja Escapades. Now that was interesting because they were pretty much like covered. It was 3 stories that were covered in the Ninja Escapades, and they were basically, I believe, OVAs. The first story was about the recruitment of the Akatsuki members after it became a villain organization, and had you battling as the various Akatsuki members against the potential new members in order to convince them to join. So that was an interesting thing to see, because I don't think that was really covered in the main story. So that was definitely interesting to see. Now, now I'm going to talk about the second one last because that was my favorite. The third one was very weird because it was it was basically the story was about Kushina and talking to Minato about how Obito, even though her and Obito were always fighting, she liked Obito the best out of the three, and how it was funny. I was like really weird how even though she loved Obito the most or favored Obito among the three, Obito was the one that in essence killed her, which so it turned like the cutesy scenes of her saying, "Oh, I really like," hinting at that she likes Obito the best. It kind of turned it morbid because it's like, well, your favorite, your favorite among your husband's students is the one that kills you. So, unfortunately, but the thing that made it most disappointing was that there was no fights. It was just just viewing. But one of the other things I liked about the ninja escapades though is that when you weren't fighting, they used animation style, like anime style animation, as opposed to like the game animations, like the character, like in previous games when you saw the story, like even though it would recreate the story, it would be using the animation in the game's animation style. But for the Ninja Escapades parts, it was using the same type of animation they would use for the anime. Now, of course, better quality, but it's the same style. Like, it looks like it's the anime. Now, my favorite was the second Ninja Escapade, and for one reason first of all, it was called the Two Uchihas, and there was one reason and one reason only for why this was the best. Shisui Uchiha. It gives people the debut of Shisui Uchiha. Hands down, my favorite character in this game, and is my main character that I use for this game. He is such so incredibly fun to play with. Now, the story of the two Uchihas is basically has two fights that showcases the friendship between Shisui and Itachi, and how it leads up to the events of. So that's the first fight, is him and Itachi, and then it shows you the events leading up to Danzo attack. Like, Shisui says that he's going to use his Mangekyou Sharingan's ability to put all the Uchiha under a Genjutsu, and so that way, and basically use that to change their minds about so that way they'll no longer want to do a revolution or civil war, whatever you want to call it. But before he can do that, Danzo comes in and attacks him to try and take him out and get his Sharingans. So that way, because he wants it for himself, and he wants to deal with the Uchiha in his way, which is eliminating them all. Then, so that's the second fight, is you battling against Danzo. Now, obviously, to continue on, you have to beat Danzo, but after you beat him, it shows you that he takes Shishui's one eye, I believe it was his right eye, and then Shishui barely escapes, finds Itachi, and then gives Itachi his other eye, and allows for Itachi to kill him, so that way he can get a Mangekyou Sharingan. Now, for the Ninja World Tournament, there is a lot to do. Now, there's two modes. The first mode is the regular Ninja World Tournament mode, and that has D, C, B, A, S, and SS ranks. Now, this is what I've heard. I've only just today of recording, September 23rd, beaten the B rank, and have now begun moving on to the A rank. Now, the basic thing is you go compete in the tournament, and when you're not competing in the tournament, you're going around trying to recruit more people, completing challenges, and going on jobs to basically gain more items and money. And that's pretty much the simple bit. There's a lot, and it's very simple and doesn't really if you're not a completist and you're good at the game, it shouldn't take you very long to go through this. But if you're a completist and want to do everything and get all the characters in that mode, because you have to recruit the characters in the mode in order to utilize them in this mode, even if you unlock them in free bat and the other modes. Unless you're a completist and want to do everything you can, if you do want to do everything you can do a Ninja World tournament, it'll take a lot. You'll be putting a lot of hours in. Because even if you're really good and will breeze through them, all the challenges, the rounds of the tournament, the fights that you have to do in order to convince people to join you, and the jobs, there's just the sheer number of them will guarantee you putting in a bunch of hours into that mode. So the game is very good. Now, if included in the game is without, and this isn't a pre-order bonus, comes in the game, is like a Mecha Naruto card and 2 DLC codes. The first will allow you to get a Naruto with Sasuke gear on, Sasuke with Naruto gear on, and Itachi wearing an apron over his Akatsuki gear. Now that seems out of left field until you have utilized the second DLC, which is like a 12-minute special anime special thing called Sunnyside Bow. That is when it makes sense, because that's when you see Itachi wearing the apron. Simply in point, it's about the special. It's about Itachi making Sunnyside eggs for his brother Sasuke's breakfast. But he just seems to be having trouble having the perfect Sunnyside up eggs. Now Sasuke comes in after he's made like a whole bunch of them and they're all over the place. It's like, I'm just going to take one and eat it because I don't care. But Itachi's like, no, it has to be perfect. So you see the fact that he's freaking out over not being able to get the right egg, and it's like, oh, it doesn't work. So then he has to dump it out, throw out the egg, the imperfect Sunnyside up egg, then rewash the pan, then put it in, now reheat up the pan, put some more oil in there since they cleaned it all out, and make another egg, and it's just hilarious. Especially since like the first half of the special, he's all by himself, so you have no idea why the hell he's obsessing over it so much. And then, but hands down, the funniest part of the entire special is the fact that in order to produce the perfect Sunnyside up egg for his brother, he uses his Mangekyo Sharingan to slow down and pulls the egg in his like zone, so he can slow it down the time, so he can make sure that it is perfect. There's no eggshells. The yolk doesn't break. It cooks perfectly, and it's hilarious. Now, of course, in the end, it's like, it's just Sasuke having a dream, and you see him and like Naruto or something on top of the Sunnyside up egg inside of the pan that Itachi's using, and it's like, it's meant to be as silly as possible. It's funny, and it's funny. So that's another little cool tidbit about getting the game. But the game itself is very good. Definitely, if you're a Naruto fan and you like fighting games, pick this one up. It's unfortunately Naruto is probably going to fall into the same realms as DBZ, and is probably going to be making a ton more games even after the show's over. I haven't gotten all the characters yet, so I don't know what characters they will still need to add, but this one and most likely the next one they make are the two most that I'd recommend the most getting, because it'll cover, like, the next one will cover any of the remaining characters that needed to be added to the game, or forms of our characters that we already have that need to be added that weren't added in this one. like for you manga readers, you know what I'm talking about. The dual Sharingan Kakashi, the sage, the power, the stage of six powers give it or should I say the Ashura and Indra powers for Sasuke and Naruto, Kaguya, stage of six pass, alive Madara, and so on and so forth. So that'll be interesting to see. Now, you can probably they'll in terms of TV shows, regular TV shows. Because I'm gonna save the anime for last. TV shows that I've watched, not really anything. Little tidbit. Just not really much. In terms of movies, I've watched a couple of movies on demand of no real importance. The only one maybe I guess of somewhat significance I think since last week I watched on demand was Kick-Ass 2, which I really enjoyed. And for those of you who have joined the forum, we noticed, and if you remember from last week, on Monday, September 22nd, I posted Chapter 49 of Dragon Soul on the forum. And that I also got some more writing done this week, so you might be able to see Chapter 50 in the upcoming weeks. Now, I'm sure you're going to want to comment back on the last part, which is the anime I watched, the new anime I watched, that I started and finished, and then read the manga, which didn't have many more chapters, or should I say, had like a reasonable amount of chapters after the end of the animes, where the anime stopped. So I was able to finish reading it. And the one I watched and read was Dead Man Wonderland. Now, normally I am not I'm not interested in animes and mangas that are that heavily focused on blood and gore. Like the only other one I've seen and I'm not counting Toriko, the ones that are actually focused on blood and gore was Blood Plus. This one, the main reason why was I heard a lot of good things about it, and it kind of sort of is on Netflix.
Right. Oh yeah, I forgot that was on Netflix.
So it's like, and I heard, about the whole thing about how it was in the show there were people who could manipulate blood to use into weapons. So it's like, you know what? Let me give it a shot. It's only 13 episodes, so why not? I really enjoyed it to the point where I read the manga, and there was a lot of the reasons, and before you say it, the main reason why I read it and focused on finishing the manga was because it was so short. Even though I still have to catch up to Bleach and I still have to finish reading Hitman Reborn, it was short enough. But see, the thing is that it has 13 episodes, but only 12 of them are the 13th episode is actually an OVA, and the 12 episodes that are not OVAs covered 21 of the 57 or 58 chapters. So, if you think about that, in 12 episodes, they cover 21 chapters of content. That was about 1 3/4 chapters per episode. So, let's see, they had 58 chapters, so let's see, 58 minus 21, that was about another 37 chapters of content. So, if you figure, alright, 1.75 chapters per episode, they could have done it in another 21 episodes, in total making it only 33 plus the OVA, 34 episodes, which isn't that long, or that much longer than a normal anime's run length, which is 26 episodes. So that's why, and because the manga was so short, that's why I decided to read it, and it was a very interesting story, and definitely worth watching the anime and then reading. And the reason why I say watch and read, even though there were certain of the parts they did cover, there were certain things they didn't include, there were only the things they didn't include were only very minor, and it's still even if you do read the manga first, I still recommend seeing the show because it was just done so. I thought it was done. The anime was done so well, especially and a great voice cast. Like one of the for instance the one of the most badass, or at least the most badass male character. Not that is not the and that I mean when I mean the main character is not the most badass, but the most badass male character. Because I can't say for sure if this character is the most badass because it was such a good show. But the most badass male character for his power, he can use his blood to form blades, and he was played by Patrick Seiss. Which you might know him as Frankie from One Piece, Loxus from Fairy Tail. And it also helps that the guy has an eye patch. Or should I say gains an eye patch, and you'll understand why I say gain when you read it. Now yes, it focused a lot on blood and gore, but everything else about it made it seem like not like when you see a horror-based anime, it focuses on that blood and gore. It's like I'm not into that kind of stuff. But the fact that other stuff just the blood and gore just added to the good characters, the good setting, the good story. It had all the makings of a good anime. The blood and gore just added to it, as opposed to even though it was very heavily used. There was another one. They have another Funimation regular that was used was they all have Eric Vale was in it, and Monaco Rail
was pretty good.
Was
Eric
used.
Vale was fantastic.
So there's going to be definitely but there's if you watch a lot of Funimation, if you watch a lot of English dubbed anime, you'll probably recognize a bunch of people. So, especially since it's a Funimation done, and Funimation, has a lot of really good ones. So, but just so that way you guys get a feel, the basic idea is that, or the basic plot is that, this kid gets, just happy-go-lucky, average kid, know-nothing loser kid, is sitting in his classroom one day, or as class is starting, and suddenly hears this song that's being played, and he's like, wait a minute, I think I know that tune. And then he goes to turn, and he thinks it's coming from outside, so when he goes to look at it, see where it's coming from, a man appears, draped in red, and out of nowhere comes in and just, as brutally as possible, murders everyone except the main character, and leaves. So the main character gets blamed for it and gets sentenced to death for a crime he didn't commit, and ends up in Japan's first and only privatized prison, Dead Man Wonderland. Cue the rest of the show. Now, of course, the Dead Man in Dead Man Wonderland is the name of these people who have this power to manipulate their blood into weapons. Now, of course, if you want to find out more about this show and as to why so you can see as to why I like it, I suggest watch it. The anime, like I said, is on Netflix, so that's that. And just to give you guys a feel for how good at least I felt it was, it made my top 10 anime and was number 7.
Wow.
That might not seem like a lot to you, but just to show you how tough the competition was, here's my top 10 as of today. Number 1, One Piece. Number 2, Dragon Ball series. Number 3, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And yes, I do separate the two. I have forgiven the first series for its faults, and it's no longer my least favorite anime. But Brotherhood was just so good that it's number 3. Number 4, another controversial choice, or should I say a controversial choice, Naruto. Number 5, Gurren Lagann. Number 6, Toriko. Number 7, Dead Man Wonderland. Number 8, Yu Yu Hakusho. Number 9, Inuyasha. And number 10, Fairy Tail.
Interesting.
Now, yes, I know there were some of the one of now you might have having been in heard my list several times before in its previous incarnations noticed that Bleach isn't in there in the top 10 anymore. Now the main reason is I know it's top 10 material, but since unfortunately I have yet to see what happens after the anime ended, I can't give it a top 10 rating at this time. And I have not. And another top 10 contender that hasn't been ranked yet, Hitman Reborn, because I also haven't finished that. So once I get around to finishing Hitman Reborn, it's probably going to be most likely at this point, as of this point, unless the rest of the series and the manga is bad, I'm going to probably be putting it in my top 10.
Yeah, dude, Hitman Reborn and Bleach should knock Fairy Tail out of the park.
And I know that, but what I'm saying is that until I get that, I can't put them like. In fact, right now I think I'm gonna honestly, as of this point of what I've seen, I like Hitman Reborn better than Bleach, but I can't foresay they're fine. But I know for a fact that they will change once I finish both these series.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is both of those have been in my top 10, and I think they've both been just about pushed out. Actually, well, Bleach and Toriko, I would say right now are pushed to number 10 at this point for me, with Hunter x Hunter overtaking both of them for number 9.
See, that's the thing about ranking anime, is that especially long animes that are still going on in the manga, and that is that as they continue to go on, their rankings can change based on new anime you see, and the fact is whether or not they get better or worse as the series goes on. Toriko is most likely, is probably going to in my opinion, outbeat Gurren Lagann by the time it's done, and most likely even Naruto. And dare I say, based on the potential of Toriko, even beat out Brotherhood. DBZ, no, I don't. That's what I said. I said it has the potential to, but it cannot and will not beat out One Piece and the Dragon Ball series for me. No matter how good it gets, because Dragon Ball, the entire series, including GT, because it's still part of the anime series, because I didn't read the manga. Was just so amazing. It was just on, and it's Dragon Ball set in my opinion, set the standard for anime. Every anime that came after that, every manga and anime that came after that, had to deal with the standard that Dragon Ball manga set.
That's a fact.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, is that it's because of, it's like, yes, in my opinion, there wasn't as neat, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, in my opinion, had a better plot than the Dragon Ball series, but it just couldn't. Even though and Brotherhood was so epic, it just couldn't compare though to everything else about Dragon Ball series.
Yeah.
You know, I felt the plot was a little lacking, but everything else was just great. And then there's One Piece.
One Piece.
Yeah. I think we've already talked enough about One Piece, and if we get into that type of conversation about One Piece, we could make 50 podcasts
Probably.
worth of talk. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Is that One Piece is One Piece. So yeah, Dead Man Wonderland is definitely worth checking out. Now, like I said, I can't make any you Strider have a very strong top 10, so I'm not gonna say it's most likely not gonna be in your top 10, but definitely I would say like, and I don't know if but it's probably gonna be like B, or high B at least. I'd hope because that's how strongly I feel. But that's your opinion. That's your opinion to be made.
Sure.
So
you done with your section there?
Trying to think. No, I talked about the gaming. I talked about Dead Man. I briefly mentioned about Dragon Soul. In terms of the podcast, I think I've said what I had to say.
One other thing I want to mention about in this section of the podcast is for Korra. If you guys are watching alongside, if you guys are trying to catch up as well, like me, or if you're just rewatching episodes, we always want to support the official release. So watch it. If you don't want to buy the DVDs, watch it on Nick's official site because they have all the episodes and they're all littered with ads. Yes, it's annoying, but Nickelodeon makes money off this. Specifically, the production company that does Korra. They make the money off of these ads, and it's free, so who cares?
It was, so many people. For those of you who have been living under a rock over the summer, so many people, or should I say, so many more people were watching Korra online as opposed to on TV. That halfway through book 3, they switched it to online only release, and book 4 is going to be released entirely on Nick.com, episode to episode.
Yeah, so don't watch it on any other site really. Watch it on their site because
it'll give them more support, and if we support it enough on their Nick.com site and they make enough money, that might make them try and convince the creators to do more content, whether it be probably not a book 5, but at least maybe another series or a movie or something.
Well, we just want
whatever.
We want the money that they deserve in their hands,
Oh yeah, because now it's just that's what they deserve. The series, like Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra, are great series, and they deserve every penny that they're making off these series. Now, all right, so that's my
that's
all
I really wanted to say, just to throw that out there. Okay, so that'll conclude the other media section